everyone, this is Calvin, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the Huepar laser distance measuring device. This is the LM100A. It measures distances up to 100 meters or 330 feet for those of you that are metrically challenged. And so anyway, full disclosure, this was provided to me by Huepar. I've done several reviews of Huepar products before. I'm very impressed with them, all products that I've purchased myself. But they did send me this asking me to do a review. I'm going to do a very unbiased, open, honest review on this. Anyway, let's take a quick look at this and see what we've got here. Got to get that open first. I think I need to sharpen my knife there. Okay, so what's in the box? It's a fairly small device here. Looks to be pretty decent quality, just like their other products. This particular material is looks like it's acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, which is basically ABS, which is good type of plastic to use. It's very impact resistant, non-carcinogenic, and wears very well as long as you don't expose it to really high temperature, which you wouldn't be doing on a device like this. Okay, so it does have an internal battery on it, lithium ion, 3.7 volts, and so there's no batteries to worry about. See, it looks like it's got a charging port. A little hard to get open there. Yeah, it's got a charging port. So somewhere in here must be, let's see, we've got a little manual there. It's all in, looks like Chinese. I won't be able to use that. However, there is another manual here, all and it looks like multiple languages there. Of course, I'll be using the one in English. Okay, check that out later. That's looks to me like a little carrying case. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wear that on your belt, whatever. Okay. And there's the USB cord, and there must be a little strap you can put on it somewhere. Not sure where. Oh, right there. Okay. I don't think I need that. And then this would happen to be a target. It looks like it's white on one side and reflective material on the other. Okay, when we do the testing, we'll check that out. Let's see if it's got a charge on it. Oh, look at that. Fires right up. Looks like it's got a backlit screen on there. And if we look at this, it appears that it's in inches. And let's see. No, it's reading it. Let's see, how do I change it to... That turns it off. Okay. Well, I think I should get into the manual and read a little bit more about how this thing works. Well, if you're like me and most other guys, you probably don't like reading the instruction manuals, but I did go through this one. And I do have to say that I am impressed by the translation that's been done, at least for the English version. They've done a very good job of it. They've obviously had somebody who's a native English speaker who's gone through this and done an excellent job of translating. It is very understandable and very easy to follow. Okay, so I've been through the manual, so let's see if I can walk you through how this thing works. First off, I'll turn it off here and start with turning it on by pressing the green button. And first thing we'll talk about is up here in the left-hand corner. It shows you where the measurements are being taken from, and that's that symbol represents the actual unit itself. The top part being the top here, the end or back here, and then the middle. And so by pushing this button down here, you can, and just a light push on that, you can move it to the top, to the front, the middle, which would be measuring from about here, and then to the back, which is where most of the measurements are typically taken from this point on the back here, and it defaults to that measurement when you first turn it on. Also, let's continue talking about this button. If I do a hard press, you see that it will change the units. In this case, we're looking at metric units now. hard press it again. We're measuring in inches. And that's in inches also. Feet and inches. And that's in feet. And that's in meters. And it's also in centimeters, as you can see there. And then meters and tenths of a meter. Okay. Next we also have the little button here that turns the audible tone on and off. And I guess you press and hold that. Now when we push the other buttons, you no longer hear it. You can turn it back on. There's no indicator that's on or off, other than you can hear it as it's beeping, like that. Okay, now let's talk about some of the different measuring functions. And with that, you would be using this button down here. And when you first turn on the unit, it defaults to a straight line, and that's represented by the line up here. And then once you're on that setting, you can be doing measurements in a straight line. There's also plus and minus buttons on here to where you can continue adding lines or measuring multiple distances and just keep adding those dimensions up. I'll give a demonstration of that later. One press on there, and then it gets into square units. In this case, we'd be measuring in meters, but it can also be done in feet and inches. And then the next press on it, we'll be doing volume measurements, and this is also in meters and feet units, and that would be represented by the cube there. Another press gets into the painter function. That would be for measuring if you're going to be in a room that has a common height dimensions throughout the room. And then we have the Pythagoras measurements. The first one here is if you don't know the dimension of the vertical side of a right angle. In this case, maybe you're trying to measure a wall that you don't have access to do a vertical or straight line measurement, and you can do a Pythagoras measurement where you would have to know the distance from the point that you're standing at through the base for the horizontal measurement, and it would calculate that in a straight line, and then pointing to a reference point at the top, you would calculate the hypotenuse, and then through the internal algorithm in the software, it will generate what that altitude or height would be of that right angle. Okay, we press another one. We have another Pythagoras type measurement, and in this case, you would know the sides of the right angle. In this case, you'd know the horizontal line and the vertical line, and this would calculate what the hypotenuse is. We press it again. So in this one, let's say that you want to do a Pythagoras measurement, but of a dimension that is below the grade or below where you're standing. Let's say it's a sub-basement, but the top of where you're measuring is not at a straight or 0 degrees from where you're standing. Here you would actually measure the lower dimension, lower angle, and then the angle above that, and then you would measure the third angle would be a horizontal line across, and then internally it would calculate what the dimension would be between the two lower vertical points of the lower triangle, which would not be a right triangle, but is being referenced from the right triangle just above it. Okay, and lastly, we are at a position where we can measure a right angle straight across, but the item that we're measuring is both above and below the horizontal plane that we're standing in. And in this case, it would first calculate the dimension of the upper right triangle, and then secondarily it would calculate the dimension of the lower right triangle and combine those two together to get you the full dimension of the vertical height of whatever it is you're measuring. Another feature on here is this button which can save up to 30 different measurements. It does save them by doing a long press after you take your measurements, and unfortunately it does not download to the computer. I took a whole bunch of measurements with this thinking that I'd be able to download them to my computer, and they don't. You will have to transfer those manually, but at least it saves all of them within the unit itself, like I said, up to 30. Okay, so I've set up this measuring device here for testing the accuracy of the Huepar laser meter. And as you can see, what I've done is I put a tape measure out here to the end of a 1x6 board. I put the reflective target there, and put the tape measure up flush against it, against the wall there. And then this is a 96 inches or 240 centimeter long board, roughly. And what I'm doing then is I'm going to take the device here and I'm going to check it. Let's check it at 200 centimeters, right there. Okay, just to make sure that this is a fair measurement, I've taken several tape measures I have out here. Stanley, a Cobalt, an Assist, I think that's from Japan, and then Comelon. Anyway, I've taken all these tape measures here. A couple of them are metric, a couple of them are in inches, and we'll go with a dimension that's pretty common between the two, 180, looks like maybe 188. And at 188, that pretty much lines up with 74 inches. And as you can see, all the tape measures, let me see, lay that down. Yeah, all the tape measures are lining up. Okay, and then also, as you can see, they are all resting up against the edge of the reflective target. Okay, so now that we've established the tape measure is correct, we are now going to check it at 2 meters or 200 centimeters. And it's reading 203. So this is supposed to be accurate within 2 millimeters. It's at 3 or 1/16 of an inch. So in the instruction booklet, it tells me that what I need to do is I can calibrate it by pushing on the off button and holding it while momentarily pressing the read button. So let's give that a shot. Okay, so I'm going to push the button to off, hit the clear, the read. Okay, now it's showing calibration, and I want to go down, so I push the minus button because it's reading too high. I'm assuming that's in millimeters. Let's hope so. Okay, and then I think I hit that button again. Okay, now let's check it and see what we get. Oh, it's still reading high. Well, actually, it did go down a bit. Now we're reading about 1 millimeter off. So let's try that again. Let's push this off and hold it. Push that. Wait for the calibration. We're going to drop it down one more. And that should store it. And we're at 200 again. Let's read it. And there we go. That's 2 meters, 200 centimeters. Okay, very nice. So you can calibrate it if it's out. And I feel very confident that it is spot on. Okay, so that sets it for the normal default, which is, to the end. And that's the default when you turn it on. Now let's check it how accurate it is measuring from the front edge of the device. So we'll just take the frame and square and flip it over, set it at the 200 mark, or again 2 meters, rest that up against the edge, clear that reading, and shoot it. Spot on. Okay. All right, and then lastly, let's check it for the middle dimension. Let's again set that at 200, and it's in the middle. Let's make sure we got it the correct place. Okay, right about there. So the middle mark references the position where you would put the screw for the tripod shoe. Now this also has another feature to do continuous measuring, and in that case, we can turn it off or we can just set it to 0. And we push and we hold it until you hear the beep beep beeping, and you can see it says max and min. Now what this does is it allows you to measure it continuously, and when you're done, it'll give you both a minimum and a maximum measurement. So let's say, for example, I'm in inches now. Let's go to 60 inches here, and at 60 inches, it's reading 60. Okay, now that's showing my minimum measurement there. And let's go, now let's take it here to, let's say 90, roughly. I'm just placing it there. And so you can see now that it's showing my maximum measurement is about 90, 89.9. Minimum is 60. And if I do a measurement anywhere in between, let's say it's 72 inches, you can see it's showing what that current measurement is, but it's within the minimum and maximum, so those aren't going to change. And I can take it down here and move it to 48. And at 48, you can see that's the new minimum. Let me go back to 60. Where's 60? Right there. And you can see 60 is showing, but it's no longer minimum. And I can do it at 72. and it's still showing 48 is minimum and 89.9 or 90 is the maximum. Well, that's a general overview of the Huepar laser distance meter. If you'd like to learn more about how to use it, check out part 2 of this video where I'll demonstrate practical uses of this laser distance meter. I hope you're enjoying my series of tutorials on laser tools, and if so, please give a thumbs up. Also, please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell to get notified when I release new videos.